Hey everybody, this is TJR with a long overdue video. Back at the beginning of this year, when the Elton John Jewel Box set was first released, I did an unboxing video. And I did say that I would be reviewing discs 1 and 2, which of course are the deep cuts, and discs 3, 4, and 5, which are the Rarities discs. And I did say that I'd be taking my time with it. A few months later, I did come out with a video where I talked about the first 2 discs. That was 6 months ago. And yes, that's a long time. So I do want to say thank you to everybody who patiently waited. And also, hopefully, it's a sign that, fingers crossed, things are getting back to normal. But before we go any further, please, if you want to see more videos like this, click like, click subscribe, and smash the bell notification icon so you can know when I release new videos. So now let's discuss Disc 3, Rarities, 1965 to 1968. Now these are the early recordings by Elton John before he was Elton John, back when he was Reg Dwight. This is the artist, or perhaps I should say artists, Elton John and Bernie Taupin, practicing their newfound craft, trying to figure out who they are as songwriters. And honestly, when I listen to this first disc, I can literally hear that. Now, disc 1 opens with the first 2 earliest studio recordings by Elton John with his first band, Bluesology. In interviews, I have heard Elton speak of these early recordings as being very amateurish. But honestly, I found these 2 tracks, Come Back Baby and Mr. Frantic, to both be fine bits of Motown-influenced pop, and I thought they both showed enough potential that they could be improved upon with the right producer. Also, these recordings sound surprisingly good for what I will have to guess was something that had to be recorded very quickly. After these 2 studio tracks, the rest of Disc 1 is almost exclusively piano demos. There are, however, 5 exceptions. Track 16, entitled Nina, tracks 19 through 22, entitled Thank You for All Your Loving, Watching the Planes Go By, When the First Tear Shows, and Tartan Colored Lady. And I'm going to go out of order and center on these next. Now, all 5 of these tracks are listed as band version tracks, but by and large, these feel more like band demos. Now, the major difference between the bluesology demos that open Disc 3 and these 5 band version tracks is that the bluesology demos have the advantage of Elton recording with a band that he has performed and rehearsed with night after night after night, probably playing at least 3 to 4 hours a night. And this really shows when you compare the bluesology to the 5 band demo tracks. You can hear that bluesology is a well-rehearsed band, which is very advantageous when you have to go into a recording studio and record very quickly and as live as possible. Now, it's perfectly clear to me that these 5 band version tracks were recorded probably just as quickly and probably just as live, but without the advantage of a well-rehearsed band, which is not to say that they are not worth listening to. The primary groove to track 16, entitled Nina, feels very reminiscent of Heartbreaker by the Rolling Stones. It's a pretty good track, but track 19, entitled Thank You for All Your Lovin', has a lot more life to it and is genuinely fun to listen to. The riff to the verse is also reminiscent of a Rolling Stones song as well, only this time it's Sympathy for the Devil. And Elton's piano is spot on and tight during this performance, and also very much in the style of Nicky Hopkins. Track 20, entitled Watching the Planes Go By, gets off to a strong start though with its beautiful and very pronounced in the mixed opening backup vocals. This is an enjoyable bit of 60s pop anthemic psychedelia and has the best production values of all these band version tracks. Track 21, entitled When the First Tear Shows, is unfortunately the weakest of these band version tracks. Tartan Lady, track 22, while a step up from When the First Tear Shows, is still trying a bit too hard to be artsy. So with all the band version tracks out of the way, let's talk about the piano demos that make up the bulk of Disc 3. Now, the important thing to keep in mind when listening to early pre-fame demos is to manage your expectations accordingly. The bluesology demos had the advantage of a well-rehearsed and tight band. The band version tracks had the advantage of musical collaboration, and I'm referring to having a band of musicians who can contribute musical ideas to your songs, and they can potentially make them stronger. However, though, the majority of the tracks on Disc 3 are just piano demos, although a few are listed as piano and tambourine and piano and percussion. And a few do even have the benefit of overdub backup vocals. Hey everybody, this is TJR from the future, interrupting TJR from the past. And as I was editing this video, I realized I made a mistake. Oh no! In a moment, you're going to hear me refer to the track entitled A Dandelion in the Wind as track 3. This is incorrect. Track 3 is actually a track called Scarecrow. Now, the reason for this is because the real track 3, entitled Scarecrow, never imported into my music. All I can attribute this to is some kind of a glitch that occurred while importing the CD. I'm guessing maybe I somehow accidentally check-marked it off or something. I have no idea. But I have actually been living with a 22-track version of Disc 3 of Jewelbox. It's actually a 23-track disc. Who knows, maybe Grogu was messing with me. So if you hear me say track 3, I mean track 4. If you hear me say track 5, I mean track 6. Here's the actual track listing. Sorry about the mistake. And no, I'm not going to re-record the whole thing all over again. So what do I think of the real track 3 entitled Scarecrow? It opens with a very nice quasi-classical piano intro. There is some potential with the melody of the verses and the chorus. This particular track is rather hampered by the fact that there's some real peaking and distortion as Elton hits the high notes. I'm sure that before they released this, they did everything they could to try to fix this. But once again, remember, these are just very early demos. They were never meant to be listened to by the general public. And this is something that holds true throughout this first disc here of Rarities. Regardless of any distortion you may hear, to me, it's a real privilege that we get to hear these. The song itself is pretty good, but it's lacking just a little bit of oomph. It does fare better than the next 3 that I'm about to talk about. Let's go back to TJR from the past. The first of these are tracks 3 through 5. They are entitled A Dandelion Dies in the Wind, Velvet Fountain, A Little Love Goes a Long Way, and If You Could See Me Now. These 3 tracks feature Elton John playing and singing very well, but they're a little bit on the sleepy side. Things do pick up, however, with track 7, entitled Mr. Lightning Striker Man. Probably one of the most unique and original titles I've heard on an Elton John song. This song features a very upbeat, Tin Pan Alley vibe, and you can hear shades of songs like Better Off Dead and Sweet Painted Lady when you listen to it. Track 8 is entitled Countryside Love Affair. While not a very country-sounding song, it does feature a very beautiful-sounding chord progression and a very smooth vocal. Tracks 9 through 12 are entitled I Could Never Fall in Love with Anybody Else, I Get a Little Bit Lonely, The Witch's House, and Get Out of This Town. These 4 tracks also showcase both Elton and Bernie's future potential for writing fun, upbeat pop songs, with track 12 recapturing some of the bluesology Motown influence. These tracks, I feel, are all good enough that I could see them being improved upon with the right producer at the helm. Tracks 13 through 14, entitled Year of the Teddy Bear and Where It's At, unfortunately are a bit of a downturn and are probably best left not imported into your iTunes music library. I do have to admit, though, that Year of the Teddy Bear is probably one of the best sounding song titles I've heard in quite a while. And who knows, I may even write my own song with that title just for fun. Track 15 is entitled Who's Gonna Love You, piano and percussion demo. Now, I'm singling this one out because it's one of the real jewels on this disc, no pun intended. This track shows Elton's future ability to write great soul and jazz-influenced pop songs. Now, it's listed as piano and percussion demo, but honestly, they should never have recorded that percussion because all it does is add absolutely nothing to the song, and it only distracts from the song. When I listened to it, I had to just keep ignoring it. But if you can ignore it, you've got a really nice track here. It may be that this recording only exists as a fixed 2-track stereo recording, which would make it impossible to mute that percussion. Because I'm sure if they could have, they probably would have. Regardless though, I'm still really glad that this track was included in the set. Next we have tracks 17 and 18, entitled Angel Tree and Here's to the Next Time. Here's to the Next Time is the obvious winner among these two, and it's one of the stronger demos on this collection. The chord progression on Here's to the Next Time is just ear-melting, and Elton delivers a very smooth vocal. Angel Tree is a very nice track, however, but just not as strong as Here's to the Next Time. So that concludes the piano demos. Now, I do realize that for some people, these tracks might actually be considered a tedious bore. But for me, and I'm hoping that for you also, they provide a rare opportunity to chart the growth of one of the best songwriting duos to come out of the 20th century. Despite a handful of sleepy songs, I was overall very surprised with the tracks on this disc, and I would encourage any fan to listen to these tracks at least once, if for no other reason than to gain an understanding that great songwriting doesn't just grow on trees. It takes work and dedication to craft. And on this disc, Elton John and Bernie Taupin are putting in the work. At this point, I want to thank my patron supporters who are helping me make more videos. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR the original. And if you can't be a patron supporter, just click like and leave a comment. Also, you can share these videos on your social media. So now it's time to tell me what you think. Have you listened to these demos? Do you plan on it? Leave a comment. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye.